Hot takes. Everyone has one. I think pineapple is good on pizza. I think this sports team is underrated. They can be about anything, and for the most part, they're just opinions that people feel like other people don't share, or they're new and groundbreaking. And since they can be about anything, I dove into the internet and looked for Magic the Gathering hot takes. I started off my deep search in one of the most disgusting places on the internet. That's right, we went to Twitter. Rachel Weeks, you might know her from the Command Zone podcast. She was on Command Sphere. She tweeted that Black needs the next mechanical overhaul from a casual perspective. Black commanders and archetypes feel same-y, combo-focused, and generally powerful. At the risk of discourse, Black feels stale. Ooh, that feels like a hot take. But I totally agree. We've seen white get overhauled. We've seen red get overhauled. We've seen them expanding into how white can draw cards, how white can ramp. It feels like every set, red gets a new legend that excels the top card of your library and you can play it that turn. And it's no brainer that blue and green are like the two best colors in Commander. I feel like it'll be forever before that can even be questioned. But it's interesting, since the line has moved up, Black just feels like it's, how she put it, stale. I agree. I think this is a good hot take. I'll give it a 8 out of 10. I didn't start off thinking I was going to rate these, but we're here now. I'm rating them. At Star City Ben has a list of hot takes here. Let's go over them. Hybrid mana should be legal in decks that run either color. Now this is an old hot take. Like, I think people have been arguing this since Commander started, and how, like, you'll even find people that are, oh, this is my first Commander deck, it's mono red, and then it runs a card like Boros Reckoner. Like, this isn't that big of a hot take. Now, do I agree with it? Fundamentally, probably not. I think there are a lot of hybrid cards that rely on both colors so much though that they feel like their own concept. Like there's that white-red card that lets you attack again, but that's not a white thing to do. His next thing is any WotC produced card should be legal at EDH, including Magic 30, Collector's Edition, and World Championship cards. I have a little secret for you, Ben. They are just a part of Magic at this point. The only time they aren't actually legal is when they aren't sanctioned. But a lot of people who play Commander aren't playing them at sanctioned events. This is a whole part of Rule 0. It's not even they're printed by WotC, now they're legal. People can go online and print off something, and now that should be legal. This is like trying to find a middle ground on the proxy debate that's going to annoy both sides. Like on the one side, oh, you let people play non-Magic cards in this Magic game. On the other side, it's like, you let us play non-Magic cards in this Magic game, why can't I just play my own non-Magic cards? Especially since most of these collector's edition cards, even though they aren't real cards, still cost like hundreds of dollars. I feel bad because these are some decent hot takes. His last one is reinstate a separate banned as Commander list. Free Raffellos. And this one, whew, I think this is a good one. For those who don't know, banned as Commander is just as it sounds. It means you can run it in your 99, you just can't have it as your general. And I get both sides of the argument. It's a little weird and a little clunky and hard to explain to newer players if you have a card that's banned as Commander, but then you can still play it. For simplicity's sake, they want a hard and fast thing that they could just point to and say, hey, all the cards here, they're banned. They're not allowed. On the other end of it, a lot of commanders get banned because they're problematic. But they're only problematic because they're so easy to cast, they're so easily accessible, and even if they were in the 99, they might be a little too accessible because you can always tutor for them. I'm a fan of a banned as commander list, but I understand why the rules are there to prohibit that. So I said Twitter's the dumpster fire of the internet. After that, I jumped into Reddit. Whatever you think about both of these websites, they can be fun, they can be good, they can sure as hell be toxic. Like this first hot takes from user Snow Fox Sean. Hot take, I kinda like Alchemy. Ugh, disgusting. I asked for hot takes. I was not asking for you to admit to the war crimes you've done in your life. But if we're looking at like a rating, that's a pretty decent hot take. A lot of people like to shit on Alchemy, but I think, you know what? It exists, it's not gonna go away overnight, and it can be fun. Lock me up. Another hot take is the block structure allowed for a better experience. They go into detail saying, basically I feel like WotC was unable to scale to the release of 4 big sets a year. There may be simply too many cards to design and balance, and this is without counting the multitude of new additional products there is now. I feel like this is 2 takes in one. The block structure was flawed, and I see this take a lot of the time that, oh, we should return to the block structure. The block structure was so good. But people who talk about block structure often forget about Born of the Gods. They forget about, was it Guild Pact, or was it Dragon's Maze? They forget about like Atlas and Restored. Each 3-block structure had a stinker, had one set that was just, yeah, you didn't have to care about that winter one. Now the other half of this take, they talk about the difference between big sets and small sets. I don't know the difference offhand, I'll put them right here, but the difference was at one point you would have a set that introduces you to a plane. So let's look at like Theros. You'd have Theros as the set. That's a big set. It had a bunch of cards. Then you'd have Born of the Gods, which is the next step. So Theros would introduce you to the story, they'd introduce you to the world, they'd have all the starting stuff that they could pay off later. Born of the Gods is a continuation of the story. You might have some stuff resolved, you might have new problems come up, but overall it's just Theros 2. Born of the Gods, where Theros was however many cards, Born of the Gods was a significantly amount less. That's also because Born of the Gods wasn't meant to be drafted on its own. Born of the Gods was meant to be drafted in part with Theros. And where I think the hot take about there should be a block structure thing is mediocre. I think the idea of bringing back small sets to work with bigger sets actually kind of works. So a while ago, we had those 3-block structures that were all year. You had the first one come out in like September, the second one came out in like January, the third one came out in April. It was roughly around those times. After that, there was a short degree of time before we moved into our current structure where it's basically like a set-by-set cycle. There was a time where we had 2 blocks. So it was, you'd get a big one, you'd get a Battle for Zendikar, and then where they introduce the problem, and then you get an Oath of the Gatewatch, which is a smaller set where they resolve the problem. You get a Shadows over Innistrad where they introduce the problem that, oh, some wacky stuff is happening on Innistrad, what else is new? And then you get an Eldritch Moon where, oh, it was Emrakul the whole time. I think that would probably be the best one, especially because the Ixalan block, Ixalan and something of Ixalan, actually addressed this problem. There was cohesiveness between these two sets. So with the 2 takes that they have going on here, I think one of these is a mediocre take at best, and one of these actually is pretty decent. Is this a hot take? I don't know. Slivers, allies, and shrines are all part of the exact same deck/archetype, just with a different coat of paint. Tell me I'm wrong. You are not wrong whatsoever. Actually, I've had this hot take in the past. A lot of 5-color decks, especially in Commander, are just 5-color piles. You just take good stuff and you put them together, and it just gets boring. That's why I don't like making Commander decks, especially like creature type, archetype decks that are just 5-color dragons. Like, it's just the same thing over and over again. That's why I like that one Teamer dragon that they printed, where okay, yeah, we are still going with it's just dragon good stuff, but hey, it's not 5-color good stuff anymore. I don't know if this is necessarily the hottest of takes, but this is a 10. I don't even know what scale I'm using. This is a 10 out of 1,000. Hot take. Referring to color combinations by guild/clan names makes the game confusing and less approachable to new players. I've heard this take before, and people just lambasted the person who said it. And part of me totally gets it. I get it where coming into Magic, you have to know, is it Azurius, Orzhov, Rakdos, Simic? You have to know all these color combinations. But at some point, it just becomes part of the game's lingo. And I feel like it's one of those things that most people don't use this as a gatekeeping opportunity. They don't go, hold on, you called that, is it deck red-blue? What is this? Weenie Hut Jr. Magic Night? Like, that just feels ridiculous to me. But at the same time, I feel like if you come in and you're like, oh, this is a red-blue deck, people will use it interchangeably. I feel like this is my English major brain coming out here, but like, it's the whole idea of language. We use language to simplify things. If I pull out a deck, I don't want to be like, this is my black, white, green deck. I can just say Abzan. But at the same time, I felt that when I got into Magic. I started playing Magic before Khans of Tarkir came out. And with Khans of Tarkir, we got the names for the Abzan, Jeskai, Sultai, Temur. I'm missing one, but you know what? It sucks anyways. Before then, they had wild names. There were like Junk, there was Bug, like there was Rug. Like, it was so just all over the place that it felt like, what am I doing? I don't know what this is. So on one half, I feel like, okay, this can be annoying, and it can be a hurdle to get over to get into the game, but I don't feel like it's necessarily gatekeeping. It's a good take, and it's good for looking out for people. Hot take: stickers and Alchemy type changes in paper. My take: Wizards of the Coast is experimenting with stickers, especially it being not damaging to cards and easy to take off. Then they use this technology to print text box stickers, and power and toughness stickers, and mana costs, all are added with Alchemy changes so people can put them on their existing paper cards and play a match of Alchemy. They go on, they talk about how this could work. No. This is like one of the corner cases of hot takes that you often see, where it's like conspiracy theory almost, or it's just, I have an idea and I am going to put it in Magic, and I'm not gonna think too much about it. Alchemy type gameplay in paper just doesn't work. And I get that, if we swap some stuff around, we can make it so cards can get errated. First off, that's crazy on its own. If I show up to an event with a deck and my opponent plays a creature and I go to like Doomblade it, and they're like, actually it has hexproof now. That's just ridiculous. Like, that can't be pulled off in Magic at all. With how the game functions, that just won't work unless it's a digital client, which is why it's on Arena. I think also translating Alchemy to paper is also just so bizarre, so out there. There's a mechanic, I can't quite remember the name of it, I'm putting it up right beside me, but essentially it tutors for a card without actually tutoring. You aren't looking for the card, you are seeking it, I believe is the name. I know that WotC has in the past tried to experiment with stuff in paper Magic by putting it into the unsets. They do some wacky shenanigans and now trample is on a burn spell. Okay, that's fine. I think this is just looking for something that isn't necessarily there. So after I finished going through some of Reddit for hot takes, I asked you guys what hot takes you have. I trust you guys to have some well thought out hot takes. Let's start off with Antonio Henderson. Magic the Gathering needs to make a full effort to bring the game back to the LGSs, especially with Pioneer and Standard. I agree with this 110%. I might not think this is the hottest of takes, but I think it needs to happen, especially since now gameplay has returned to LGSs for quite some time now. And I like the inclusion of Pioneer in this take. Pioneer seems to become like the new Modern, like it has fewer boundaries to enter than Modern. I think it's a solid take. And of course, Standard has to be around. As much of a pain as it is for Standard to be a thing and keep up with, I think Standard is just a healthy part of the game that kind of needs to be around for this game to have lifeblood. They need to expand the reserve list for art treatments. Make those full art and guest artist cards actually mean and worth something. Expanding the reserved list is probably one of the hottest takes I've ever heard. And you know what's even wilder is I kind of agree. My take on this take is that we get rid of the old reserve list and bring in this idea of a reserve list. This is what the reserve list deserves to be. We have those special art cards. We should keep them special. And Antonio's just firing these hot takes. He says, you also don't need to run the most optimal EDH deck. Yes, you should build it so that it has a path to end the game, but I've cut tutors for more fun cards lately and had a much better play experience. This is actually an older take that I feel like has just gone away over time. It's called the 75% rule. It's by some person that I bringing the name up on the side here. It's basically that you shouldn't be aiming for 100% efficiency in your commander decks at all times. You should be aiming for like 75. You have that room to run maybe pet cards, some fun cards, and be a little goofy with it. It's Commander. It's a fun format. It's the Mario Party of Magic. Christopher says CDH and Casual need to have separate ban lists and be separate formats. Now, I know a lot of people have been getting into CDH a lot recently, but a competitive Commander format to me just seems kind of unappealing. So much so that I just haven't taken that plunge. But I totally get it that they kind of need to move on with it. I could see beyond just a separate ban list, they have a separate rules group for them. Maybe this one is actually helmed by WotC. And to round things off, we have Jacob H with a couple hot takes of his own. Commander is more enjoyable as a budget format. I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think as a format that is based around just being fun, it's a lot more fun to win games that I feel like I've actually won because I'm playing against the person and not versus the wallet. Iona Shield of Emeria needed to be banned. Everyone saying it was fine hasn't been a victim or is trying to argue that the CRC will keep banning unfallen cards when that has not been the case since Iona got banned. I get the take that the Rules Council just bans cards that they have had bad experiences with. Oh, why is this on the ban list? It's probably just here because Sheldon himself lost too many games to it and he got annoyed. I get that take and I get how some of these cards can seem frustrating, but I feel like if there was a format of Commander without a ban list, it would just be too bonkers because you'd have too many people that could just casually make the game awful for everyone else at the table. It's not even necessarily win, it's just make the game awful. And Iona is one of those cards that was made before Commander was really that big of a thing, so it's understandable why it got banned. It's like why Draenith Magistrate isn't legal in Brawl. And its final take, the final take of the video is WotC is printing too many legends. Love diversity in the format, I don't love feeling catered to with every product. Again, wholeheartedly agree. Jacob, yeah, hit the nail on the head with this one. I will touch on the one thing that diversity in the format is a fun idea to play around with, and I'd love them to introduce new ideas and new mechanics and work around some stuff with some wacky color options. That's all fair game. I think that's all fun. But when they keep printing cards that are like, oh, this is just a worse version of another commander, I can't get with it. I don't like it. It's one of those things where, sure, Commander is a fun format. It's supposed to be a casual format. But a lot of the time, I feel like I'm not playing the right Commander if one of the other commanders can just do it better. So it's been fun looking at these hot takes. I figured I'd leave you guys with a hot take of my own. And if you want to leave your hot takes down in the comments, go right ahead. I might actually do another one of these videos and you might be included. My hot take is that mechanically in Magic, the actual card game, green shouldn't exist. But with that, as a story, white shouldn't exist. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to bolt your birds.